My name's Brandon and this is Nickelodeon Video Game History, a show where I take a look back on all of the video games based on Nickelodeon shows and retrospectively review them. In a case of really great coincidental timing, Nickelodeon Party Blast's place on the schedule has almost perfectly lined up with the announcement of the latest Nick crossover game. If you've been living under a rock, about a week ago Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was announced, which, as you could probably predict from the title, it's a Smash Bros clone. But this week we're throwing it back to Nickelodeon's second attempt at copying one of Nintendo's ultra successful franchises. We got a taste of this with Nicktoons Racing, which had a few different versions and some of them were actually half decent. This time Nick has set their sights on the Mario Party formula. Released on October 30, 2002, Nickelodeon Party Blast came to the Xbox, GameCube and PC, but bizarrely skipped the PS2. The great folks over at the cutting room floor have unearthed evidence of a PS2 controller and memory card graphics left in the game's files, so it seems a version was in the works at some point. It is really strange that they'd skip over the most popular console of that generation though. The developer tasked with bringing Party Blast to life was Data Design Interactive. This was their one and only Nickelodeon game, with a glance at their history showing that they specialised in racing games. Like a shitload of racing games. Whether it's racing on broomsticks or jet skis, seems like DDI were obsessed with the genre. Kind of a big departure to go from that to something like this. It feels like they would have been a better fit for a kart racer. If you recognise Data Design Interactive's name, you've probably encountered the controversy surrounding them. Their most notable game, other than Party Blast, would probably be Gingerbread Man. This was a platformer originally released for the PC and PS2 in 2005, but it got new life when it was ported to the Wii in late 2007. Why is it so notable? Well, other than it being god-awful according to critics, Data Design reskinned Gingerbread Man 3 times. They were desperate to get a slice of that Wii pie. Even when they weren't just blatantly releasing the same game over and over again, they were notorious for reusing assets such as music across their games. Clearly they lived by the work smarter, not harder mantra. So knowing all that, would it shock you to hear that Party Blast was a critical flop? Of the games I've been able to dig up review scores for in Nickelodeon's history, it received the worst review scores. It could only average a 3.1. The highlight of their reviews is probably the impressively low 1.1 out of 10 from IGN. Do you know how shitty your game has to be to receive that kind of score? Clearly this review is going to be a disaster. But can we find something that's salvageable in Nickelodeon Party Blast? So here we are with the second ever Nickelodeon crossover game. Honestly, the game sort of gives off a decent first impression because it's not just copying Nintendo. Generally, whenever any company copies Mario Kart, Mario Party, or Smash Bros, they copy literally everything. Sometimes this actually works decently, but even at its best, you're usually left feeling confused why you wouldn't play the original game when there's no new ideas present. While Party Blast is obviously inspired by Mario Party's success, the structure of the game is unique. Go on Mario Party's iconic boards and instead you see a system more reminiscent of Mario Kart. It's honestly quite interesting. So once you jump into the game you have 3 modes: Blast, Replay and Cup Challenge. I'll dissect those modes a little bit later. For now, let's see what minigames they have in store for us. Red flags immediately shoot up here. There are 5 minigames total in Nickelodeon Party Blast. I'm honest to God in shock. Maybe I could accept this on the GBA or even the PS1, but a PS2 minigame title having just 5 different games? What the hell, guys? Fun fact, Mario Party 4 came out 9 days before Party Blast. 9 days!
9!
That game had 60 unique minigames, just a teensy bit more. I guess I'll spotlight each of them individually, seeing as there's only 5 of them. The game doesn't actually give each event a name, so I've decided to name them myself. First up is what I've dubbed Food for Fort. As my name suggests, this is a food fight. Players are dropped in an arena and given a smattering of unique food items to pick up and douse their enemies with. The food ranges from stuff that can be thrown to ranged source weapons and breadsticks you can thwack opponents with. At the briefest of glances, this isn't the worst thing ever. I've seen this idea executed much worse in both the Johnny Bravo game and the Camp Lazlo game. The goal of this event is to bring your opponent's health to 0, but you also have a time limit, so often the round ends up being decided by whoever has the most health remaining. The major problem with this game is the fact that, well, actually playing it is the worst possible strategy if you want to win. I know, right? It sounds crazy. Across my many games of Food for Thought, I found that actually picking up food and fighting the opponents just resulted in it being a crapshoot of whether I'd do well or not. However, if I just hid off in a corner somewhere, the enemies would leave me alone, deciding to kill each other and leaving me the victor. This was taken up a notch when I discovered several hiding places where the AI just couldn't get me. Not because they physically couldn't reach me, I was using normal in-game methods to get to these spots, but the AI is just so poorly programmed that it has no idea what to do. In the Rugrats themed level, I would just jump on top of the fridge and sit there for a few minutes. Guaranteed first place every single time. My advice for any lost souls who decide to pick up this game is to never engage during this minigame. It's not worth it. I think my favourite level was the Wild Thornberries. Here you can jump up on the iconic Convy quite easily, but for some bizarre reason the AI is baffled by it. They'll try to get up there and get to you, oh boy will they try, but it's always in vain. Invariably they'll get bored and wander off to kill themselves. I really cannot overemphasize how broken this minigame is. Even just standing on the ground not moving produces better and more consistent results than engaging in battle. Food for Thought is the embodiment of the classic Mario Party gif where everybody charges in and knocks themselves out, except for Luigi who didn't move an inch. This really could have been a fun game, but data design have committed some of the most stunning and hilarious blunders ever to mess it all up. The next minigame I titled Silly Squirters. This is probably the most competent of all the games. It's basically the same as the food fight game in theory, but not broken. You each have water guns and have to spray opposing players to grab points. At the same time, points will pop up throughout the level that you need to make a mad dash for. It's playable, but extremely basic and laughably easy. Third on the dock was Bar Skateball. God, I'm on fire with these names. This is a weird hybrid between basketball and rollerblading. You move around via blade, but the objective is to make successful shots of the basketball. This gets even more complicated in one of the Rocket Power levels that features a hockey goal that you can just throw the basketball into. I think Bar Skateball falls into the same category as our first minigame. The idea seems cool, the execution is horrendous. The game wants you to do sick rollerblading tricks and then shoot the ball. Doing this is supposed to apply a multiplier to the score you receive. Unfortunately, just like Food for Thought, engaging with the intended mechanics isn't necessary. I found that the point difference between doing ridiculous tricks and just simply dunking the ball were negligible at best, especially when you consider how quickly you can repeatedly grab a ball and then dunk. I won my first game of this by 4,000 points, all because I was just focused on scoring as quickly as possible. Maybe playing this with human opponents would result in a better flow and more layers of strategy, but as it stands, the single player experience is just weird.
What the dog doing?
Next up, we've got Laying Pipe. This is just a pipe building minigame. There were what felt like dozens of these on CartoonNetwork.com back in the day. The goal is to build a pipeline from A to B, and doing so nets you points. You can take the most direct path possible to get quick and easy points, or make more extravagant layouts to get more points. The twist here is that your opponents are able to rip up your pipelines, and this fact sees a similar issue arise to basketball. There's no point building an elaborate pipeline because some arsehole will destroy it before you get anywhere near completing it. Heck, you can barely even make a straightforward pipeline. The entirety of Nickelodeon Party Blast is laughably easy in every single way except for this game. You're never given a chance to build a score here. You'll think you're doing well, and then in the space of 5 seconds, every single AI opponent will gang up on you and steal the half a dozen pipes you've put down. To make matters worse, one of these levels has these annoying little assholes that will steal your pipes too. It's just frustration turned up to 11. Last, and certainly not least, because most of the minigames I've already mentioned are worse, we have racing. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't come up with a clever name for this one. As the name suggests, you've got a race here. Interestingly, you get some different styles of racing. There's a blow-up tube race, a snowboard race, and even kart racing. It might be the worst kart racer I have ever played, but it's here. The goal of this minigame isn't to cross the finish line first, instead it's all about grabbing the most coins. Your focus is split between grabbing coins, avoiding hazards, and attacking other players, which causes them to drop their coins. I can't fault this one too much. It's not good, but there aren't any massive oversights that completely break it like most of the other games in Party Blast. Probably the funniest thing is in the snowboarding level where the HUD blocks your view several times. Did nobody on the dev team think it was a bad idea to make the race go this way?
What the dog doing?
That's everything Nickelodeon Party Blast has to offer in terms of games, but I have some more general thoughts on the gameplay. Firstly, the movement is horrendous. There's no weight to it and it feels so chaotic to control your character. Doing the most basic movements becomes insanely hard a lot of the time. All you can really do in this game is jump and attack, but there's also a dedicated button to bend over. Not sure what I'm missing here because it really seems like this didn't serve any purpose. As you've probably seen, every minigame has a slew of power-ups you can grab to make things slightly more interesting. In reality, like many other things in this game, you can just ignore them. They don't make any difference whatsoever. For me, they were mostly a fun distraction to amuse myself while the game's ridiculous time limit ran out. Seriously, did every game need to be like 3 minutes long? This stuff drags on, which is painful when you've secured victory about 30 seconds in. And lastly, what was up with these letters I can pick up? They spell out goose, which, okay, no idea what the fuck that means, but also not a single time did anybody collect all of the letters for this, so I have no idea what it does. Googling goose reveals that this was apparently a Nickelodeon slime toy. Based on the commercial I could find, I don't even know whether goose was still a thing for Nickelodeon when this game came out. It's pretty confusing and I have no idea what collecting the letters does, but I appreciate such a deep cut reference. So with all of that said, let's have a look at the actual modes of Nickelodeon Party Blast. Stunningly, the structure of this game is baffling. After picking your character, you're flung into a main menu, with the devs seemingly pushing you towards the Blast mode, considering it's at the top. However, Cup Challenge is what I would imagine this game is all about. Entering Blast reveals just stunningly garbage gameplay. Here, each minigame is broken out into its own section. You click on one minigame and have to win the minigame in each different level. The levels don't seem to get progressively harder or anything, it's just a baffling setup for this game's single player mode. You'll also be pleased to know that a shitty boss battle has been shoehorned into most minigames here. Curiously though, the boss battle isn't the finale. Data Design Interactive make the weirdest choices. After playing this for a little bit, I was super fucking confused. Surely this isn't the main event of Nickelodeon Party Blast. I headed to Cup Challenge and was comforted to find something similar to Mario Kart, a bunch of different tournaments to play through. There's 8 of these in total, starting off with the random cup. So I played through these, won, and then I hit a bit of a wall. You see, I'd noticed throughout my early Blast adventures that these stars kept cropping up. I had no idea what they did until I hit this wall. The stars are required to unlock new cups. These show up very infrequently throughout minigames, so surely there must be another way to earn them. After all, the final cup requires 150 stars to unlock. Heck, maybe just winning a cup will unlock the next. Nope. You're gonna have to earn those 150 stars the hard way, buddy. This design decision is pure fucking insanity. At most, you'll have a handful of stars pop up per game. However, you're not going to be able to grab all of them no matter how hard you try, because for some insane and idiotic reason, the AI can pick them up. Why do they need the stars? Piss off, you little shits, I've got a YouTube video I'm trying to make here. I decided, screw it. I'll go play Blast mode and hopefully we'll pick up enough stars to start progressing at least a little bit. And this worked slightly. I got enough stars to unlock up to the 3rd cup, quickly won that, and I mean quickly, this cup only has 3 games in it for some reason, only to have hit a wall again. Am I doing something wrong here? Is the game really asking me to slowly grind 150 stars to unlock all of the cups? Who in their right mind would play these 5 minigames over and over to get there? Unless I'm missing something, Nickelodeon Party Blast is the grindiest game I have ever played, and I've played 4 Rocket Power games. So I played through literally all of Blast, and guess what? I still couldn't unlock the 4th cup through natural gameplay. If I wanted to continue, I was going to have to grind. No thanks. Why would I even bother trying to unlock the cups? After playing through Blast, I had already experienced every game and every level multiple times. There's nothing that a cup could offer me that could be different in a meaningful way. Nickelodeon Party Blast is just a tidal wave of garbage. If you're surprised to hear that the roster and show representation in this game is also terrible, then it might be time to get your hearing checked. Here you can choose from SpongeBob, Zim, Jimmy Neutron, Tommy, Angelica, Eliza Thornberry, and Otto and Reggie Rocket. 6 shows are represented here. Nicktoons Racing on the PS1 represented 2 more shows and had 5 more characters in total, despite releasing on previous gen hardware a year prior. CatDog aren't in the game as playable characters, and instead they act as the hosts. I am 100% sure they did this because CatDog was way too big to leave out completely, but they were too lazy to figure out how to get CatDog's unique body to work in the game. Cat doesn't even have his actual voice actor here, making this decision even dumber. An extra kick in the guts here is that there are several characters that appear as boss battle opponents, but they aren't playable. You've got a couple of Invader Zim characters, as well as Tito and Raymundo from Rocket Power, for example. Why on earth would you go to the trouble of making these characters and then not letting you use them? The game doesn't even utilize its limited roster well either. When you pick your character, you're locked into that character until you back out to the very first menu. The game makes you pick before you get anywhere near to choosing any sort of gameplay. When you do this, the game also seemingly picks 3 random opponents for you to face, and you only face those 3 opponents until you back out to the character select screen again. This is the dumbest design I have ever seen. I think the icing on the cake for Nickelodeon Party Blast are the visuals and technical performance. To put it bluntly, this game looks like shit and it feels like it belongs on the PS1. Environments are rendered in the most basic way with very little detail, despite them all being tiny. Character models are similarly simple, which is particularly insulting when we've already seen far more impressive models of the Rugrats and Rocket Power characters, as well as SpongeBob. It's almost criminal that the character models in the PS1 Rugrats games are an order of magnitude better. I can't even exaggerate how much they skimped out on the visuals. Just look at when they try to spice up the levels with background characters. Say hi to PNG Carl, Mr. Krabs, and this cavalcade of cardboard cutouts in the kart racing level. With how low budget everything looks and feels, it's a genuine shock to see how brutally long the load times are. What could this game possibly be loading? I'm probably a little bit spoiled these days, considering PS5 games load instantly now. Like, literally any loading screen is going to seem long when Spider-Man Miles Morales loads instantly. What is more egregious is just how many loading screens there are. It feels like the game needs to load after you do literally anything. I found myself constantly scrolling through Twitter, waiting for this god-awful game to allow me to get back into experiencing its god-awful gameplay. Nickelodeon Party Blast is a Nickelodeon Party bust. I'm not going to beat around the bush. This game sucks and there isn't a shred of fun or enjoyment to be found here. Without a doubt, it's the worst minigame collection I've played. It makes Cartoon Network Block Party look like prime Mario Party. I can't get over how stupid Data Design Interactive is. Usually I wouldn't go this hard on developers considering they're usually trying their best, but seeing as they've proven to be lazy hacks through their constant reskinning, I don't really feel bad doing it here. A great example of their stupidity when it comes to design is in the boss battle for the race segment of Blast Mode. Here you snowboard against Raymundo and Tito, except you only face one of them at a time, and each time they take damage, they tag out. This brings with it a separate point score for each of them, which makes winning this game a breeze as your opponents are essentially only playing half a level. I would wager you could put the controller down in this segment and not do a single thing, and still win comfortably. Don't play this game. Nickelodeon Party Blast is a dumpster fire, and not in the fun way. This isn't like Superman 64 or Sonic 06 or any of those iconic bad games that end up falling into the so bad it's good category. What we have here is a terrible game made by an even worse developer. Nickelodeon fans deserve so much better. Playing trash like this honestly makes me so happy that Nick Kart Racers 2 was really good, and that All-Star Brawl looks like it will be decent at worst. Us longtime fans had to put up with mountains of crap to finally get here. Next time, I'll hopefully be covering a much better game. Fairly Odd Parents makes its debut on the channel here with Enter the Cleft on the GBA. I need a genuine palate cleanser after today, so I'll be sending out a wish to my fairy godparents that this game is passable. To make sure you catch that review, hit the subscribe button.